Hello everyone. In this session we will understand what is the namespace keyword in C#. From the next session we will understand what is object-oriented programming with C#. But for this session let's understand this namespace. So namespace is basically a wrapper which is wrapping the structural elements of the program. You see, it is a kind of wrapper here. You see, there is an opening bracket and then there is a closing bracket. Inside that, there is declaration, there is implementation, and various other things. It is wrapping those structural elements. You see, this opening and closing, and there is a namespace. It's wrapping everything here. So that's why it is a wrapper. Also, there is one more thing, that is that it uniquely identifies your project. This is namespace underscore demo, and there is a same, the project name. It uniquely identifies. So let's understand how to deal with this namespace and how can we work with this. Okay, this is my default thing which is coming with this program.cs. Okay, now I create another namespace. You can do that. So I have namespace and I will give name as new namespace. Let me give this name. Okay, and then this namespace, what it contains a class. So I'll call a class, and then I have a sample, and inside that sample class I will create one method, public void test. This test having some console dot writeLine, and I'll write that this is my new namespace. Okay, now the requirement is something like that you need to call this test method in your main method. How to call this? Basically you need to follow the hierarchy. And what is the hierarchy? You first need to call the namespace, and then you need to call the sample, and then you need to call the method that you want to call. So ultimately you can fetch this. So hierarchy is namespace dot operation class dot operation method or properties or whatever you want to call. Now let me try this. So let me call the namespace. So I have a namespace, new namespace. Now you can see here there is, how can we know that this is a namespace, new namespace, that this is a namespace? It is showing over here, but let's see. Let's understand that how can we identify that this is a namespace. So if I write new namespace, you see the namespace will show an opening and curly braces. Okay, this is an indication, and it is also in the tooltip, namespace, new namespace. So I'll take that new namespace, and then I will go for dot operation, and you can see it is showing me the class. And if you now again if you put the dot operation, and you'll see there is no test method. Why it is not? It is because if I explicitly if I write this, it will show me an error. Why it is showing an error is because you are calling your method with the class dot method, which is not possible. It is not possible without the static keyword. This static keyword, there is no static keyword over here. When you declare your method as static, then you can call with the class. Without that you cannot call, actually, right? Without this static keyword, if you want to call this test method, then what you need to do is sample, something like that you have to do. So what do you have to do? It's sample. You can see, let me just it cannot actually call over here because I need to do inheritance and everything. So what exactly we need to do is sample, then s equals to new sample, and then s dot test. We do something like this, s dot test, right? We do like s dot it's not taking, but just understand that we do something like this, s dot, or more precisely if I write over here, you will get to understand. When there is a non-static, how to call is with the help of sample, that is your class name here, this class. Okay, in main method, how do I call? Sample s equals to new sample, and then you will do something like this, s dot test, right? Then this method Where did it go? Okay, this method, this test I can call here, but you see my test method is not static. How can I call? So I have to put my keyword over here, that is static. Now if I do this, it will run, no problem. If I remove this static over here, if I remove this, and if you run this, it will give an error. What is the error? You see, error is an object reference is required for the non-static field, method or property. New namespace.sample.test. Here, the error is here. You need to provide the reference. So I'll put this static over here. Now I can call. Okay, easy. You can see the output. This is my new namespace. So this is how you can call your namespace, or if you want to fetch the method or anything from here, you can call directly with the help of dot operation, that is your namespace dot class and then your method. This is how you can do. Okay, now there is one more requirement. Let's say, what is the requirement is basically, let's understand this. Let's say I have a namespace corporation. Okay, this is corporation namespace, that is root, and inside this namespace I have a nested namespace that is having department. I have a department, and in this department I have a class employee. Okay, let's do this. Like I have another namespace that is also having the same name, corporation. I have inside this corporation, this is my root, this is namespace. Under this namespace I have another namespace, that is the project, and inside that I also have a class that is the same class, employee. Let's first create the structure of this. So what is that? Is just remove this and create the namespace, and I have a corporation. Inside that I have a class. What is the class name? I have another namespace, so I'll call another namespace. What's the name? It's department. Inside this namespace I have something called as class. So declare that class employee, and inside this class, let's say I have a method that is public static void test. Let me write something here, that is console.writeLine. This is test1. Let me write it short. Okay, now this fulfills my first, this one. It fulfills, everything is okay here. Now let's create this one. So I'll just copy this and I paste it. I'll just change this namespace department to, what is the name? It's project. So I'll type project over here. Also I will use another, let me just let's say this is another method, that is test1, or let me just delete this method. I don't need it actually. What I want to show is different, so I don't need it. Let me just delete this. Now everything is okay. Yeah. So I have a namespace corporation. Inside that I have a department and I have a class. Same. I have a corporation. I have a namespace, new namespace, that is project, and I have a same class. Now I want to call this employee. Or I have to create this method actually. I'm so sorry for this, but let me just create this. This is my test2 and this is my test1. Let me just create this method so that it's easy way to understand. So now I want to access this test1 and here test2. I want to access this. How I can access this is basically you have to follow the hierarchy: corporation, project, employee, and then test. Ultimately it will show you. So let's go to our this main method and let's try this. So I have a corporation dot, you can see there are two namespaces. From where? From here. You can see one is department and another one is project. Okay, and under the same namespace, corporation. So I will call the first one, that is corporation department dot, and then you can see I have an employee class, and then dot, there is your test1 method. Okay, now I again have to, yeah, so that is coming from employee test1. Now let's go for the next one, that is corporation dot project dot employee dot test2. It's easy, right? Build succeeded, no problem. If I run this, it'll work. Test1, test2, no problem. Okay, everything is okay. Now there is one more thing I can do here. Let's use this using operator. Not operator, but just use this using keyword. It's basically an alternative version of C, where you use C or C++. You're using hash include. We are using using. Okay, we are using. So using corporation, the same thing. Corporation dot department dot, oh actually this, okay, and then I'm using corporation dot project. Let's do this and delete this reference from here. Also delete this reference from here. Now if you build your solution, there is an error. What is that error? It's saying that there is an ambiguity. You see, employee is an ambiguous reference between corporation department employee and corporation project employee. The problem here is basically how compiler can understand that where should I go now? There are two employee in the same, you know, namespace, corporation project department, and the same class we having, same class. How compiler can understand where should I go now? Because there is no reference at all. You see, no dot operation. It directly, it's saying that employee dot test1, but where to go? Which employee? I cannot do this, right? So what is the solution? First solution is that you use fully qualified name. Fully qualified names means this one. If I just cut this here, if I use this dot, it'll work basically. This is the first solution. Okay, this is the first solution. Now if you run this, it will work. But there is also a problem. There is also a problem. What is the problem? It's a fully qualified name. How much to write? This is like, you know, wasting your time in writing this. So what do we have? We have something called as namespace alias. Namespace alias. Namespace alias is nothing. When you use using keyword, you can do something like this. Using, and then you need to call alias. Alias, it means let's say I have a name, like let's say I have a name Nilesh. Okay, everyone knows me with this name Nilesh, but when you come at your home, your parents call you like Neelu or something like that. It's like nickname. So namespace alias is also something like nickname. So I'm giving this reference as my nickname. So I'm giving a nickname. Let's say I have a using A equals to this one, corporation. So I'm giving this one. Okay, and then I cut this, and again I give a reference, that is a nickname, using B equals to like this. Okay, and now what do you need to do exactly? Just use this B and A. Okay, just use this one, A and B. Here you can see it builds your solution, but there is an error. What is the error? Does not contain a definition for test2. Let me see. Yeah, so this is not department. It's basically what is project, corporation dot project. That's why it is giving you the error. Now you build successfully, no problem. It's running very fine, right? So what you can do, instead of writing fully qualified name, you use the alias. This is the nickname of, you know, your this complete fully qualified name. Instead of writing the complete fully qualified name, you can use namespace alias, and you can put this aliases over here, A dot, and then call your class and then method. This is how you can use the namespace. If I run this, it will work very fine. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope you understand it.